Hi everybody, Tom here. I am with Mark Cooper, who is the Windsor Eton co-owner and chairman of the senior section of the club. Mark, we've been talking about this one for a little while. How are you? How's it all going?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Tom, and thanks for having me on. Yes, there's a lot to do, and we're getting through things as quickly as we can, but a bit behind the curve in regards to timing. But we're catching up, and we're getting where we need to be, I think.
We're kind of just going to do this as sort of a bit of a quick fire, because there's a lot of questions that I've had that other people have said, can you ask these as well? So I guess the start kind of right at the beginning. When did you decide to start this new club? I know you had talks with Kevin at Windsor about that, and those he'd obviously chosen to go in a different direction. So when did you kind of think? What was the catalyst for you going, right, we're going to go and do a club?
I guess it started quite early, Tom. When the Windsor job came up in the summer of 2019, I wasn't really looking to get back into football at that time. Life was going on, and I've been out of it for a little while. But when the job came up, and Mick stepped aside from it at that time. He'd been there an awful long time, so really the opportunity hadn't come up until then, and it wasn't something I thought about. But I think when you play for a club, and I played for Windsor for the last 3 years of my career, and I just fell in love with the place. I fell in love with Stag Meadow. We had a wonderful time at that playing for Windsor Eton at that time. This club was successful, great group of lads. So it was probably two things. Probably one, I wasn't going to get offered another job locally at a higher level than that, and two, it was probably the only job around that level that I would be interested in because of my history with the football club. So I had great memories of it, and then when I stepped into the role in sort of September 19, it quickly became apparent that whilst it has all the ingredients of being a great football club, there wasn't the resources and there wasn't the ability to really make it great again. And it was probably quite early on that I had visions of doing something in a different direction where we can make it everything that the community want it to be. And I think after that, got in talks with Kevin in regards to acquiring the club, and he didn't want to go down that direction, so that's sort of where it started from.
And obviously, getting the lease. I think we'll talk maybe a little bit more about this in a moment. But kind of getting the lease was really the main. Was that kind of the main aim? That was the thing that would make this work.
Yeah, I think obviously the main. If you talk to supporters of the club, they've always wanted security of a long-term lease. That's been the main focus for them. So, of course, that's absolutely crucial to everything that we want to do at the club, and I think being able to secure that is being able to really have a long-term vision that we're excited about.
Talking about supporters, how important was it having them on side with you? I mean, does that help you? Does that make this decision to do this easier? They obviously have come out. The supporters that I'm familiar with, the supporters group that they've got, that came out in big support of your possible ownership of the club of the Windsor original, not the original Windsor club, but that club. And obviously that deal didn't go through. So there was kind of an outpouring of support for you. Did that make this a simple idea to kind of get off the ground, really?
Yeah, of course. Supporters are such a huge part of it, and if you think about the journey that the supporters have been on in regards to the history of the club, they've followed the club as Windsor Eton, and they had a really, really successful time doing that. And then the history there, you only got to follow Michael Gegg's Windsor Eton old Twitter to understand that Arsenal in pre-season friendlies, Red Star Belgrade, huge European club, came to Windsor. The cup runs, the league wins, the great players that were there over a huge number of years, 100 years old, the club. And then, of course, that gets ended in 2011 out of the blue. A new club starts up, hasn't worked out. So from their point of view, they want something they can feel excited about again. And we're hugely obligated now to get that absolutely right, so that we don't have this situation again, and so that it's there for generations and generations of time. And we need to build something from the ground up that absolutely gets it right from the outset. So the supporters are obviously a huge part of this, but it's not just the supporters; it's the whole community that we want to bring together. But yeah, supporters have been needing this to happen for some time.
Obviously, just sort of, I guess, moving on to what's going to be happening next season. On Tuesday night was the Thames Valley Premier League AGM. I think most of us, with a bit of knowledge of the game, kind of suspected that's where you would be starting. You must be happy to be in the Premier Division. You don't have to win that division to get promoted. So you've already got the hard part is the ground. You're in that division. So I think the only bit you need to do to get promoted is a bit of admin now before Christmas. So you must be happy to be where you are, and that's where you're starting.
Well, I think you do need to do quite well in the division, Tom, to get promoted.
Well, you do. Yes, I think you do need to finish. I think relatively high up, but from my knowledge of the teams in that division now, there's nobody else that would be suitable for promotion.
I certainly think that. I guess going back to your original question, are we happy to be in that? Yes. We're absolutely delighted to be in that league, and I started talking to those guys beginning of March about what we were trying to do. When you try and explain something that no one knows about and trying to put all this together, I think it's obviously a little bit hard to digest, but they listened and they were great to deal with. They've got 5 divisions. They're a big organisation. And you mentioned the meeting Tuesday night, last night, and there's a huge amount of passion from the clubs in those leagues, and it's extremely well run, and it's a great place to start our football journey. It's lots of local teams, new places for us, meeting people from those clubs, and we're a new football club. Yeah. It's the best we could have hoped for. Step 7, automatic feeder league, well-run league. So, yeah, to answer your question, we're thrilled with it. Really, we really are.
I'm looking forward to you guys coming up to Burfield here, where I live, and showing you the sights of the village. I'm excited for that one.
Well, you've got a good side, and you've got a couple of really good players in it. So we understand that it's a decent division, and there'll be some teams that we'll have really good games with. So yeah, we're like I say, we're working on that for some time. I'm really pleased that we can announce that now.
Let's just talk about, while we're talking about the club itself and going into next season. Do you want to tell me a little bit about who is involved? Because I know there's a few. It's not just yourself. There's the Windsor Youth, and obviously you've appointed a manager. We'll maybe talk about Matt in a little bit. But just do you want to tell me about sort of some of the other people involved behind the scenes?
Yeah, of course. So there's, I think we'll start with Paul Mitchell. So he's the chairman of the youth section. And he's someone that is doing a great job at Windsor Youth, has done for many, many years. Our relationship is extremely, extremely good. We're aligned on the vision of the club, and he's obviously a huge part of it, and an extremely good guy. We've got Willie Calvert, who is on our acting board as well. He's got a great experience in the town. There's he's owner of Windsor Eton Brewery.
I was about to say, I recognise that name, yes.
And extremely good at the business side of things as well. And there's Andrew Bryan, who's a friend of mine who's involved with it, he's a pilot for BA, so he's got quite a lot of spare time and a really good guy. He's got really good links with other sporting clubs in the area, have done good jobs there. And Jonathan Gregory as well, who was a commercial director at Fulham, and he's part of the acting board as well. Got some really good experience in that area, and there's other people as well. There's Malcolm Williams, who's been a big part of the club. There's Michael Gegg. There's David, the treasurer from the youth section. Craig, the secretary from the youth section. So there's a number of people who are involved, and we need more people to be involved. It's not about any one person. It's about everyone pulling together and making sure this club goes in the right direction with a really diverse board and a really diverse set of skills.
Talking about sort of a diverse board, diverse club, are there still plans for an adult women's side in the area, within the club?
Absolutely. So 2024-25, we will look to have a women's team. It's obviously a part of the game which is increasingly growing and very, very exciting. You've only got to see the numbers that are playing now and the spectators at some of these games now. It's quite incredible to see the rise of the women's game, and no different to the men's side. We're really excited about having that side and moving that forward and seeing where we can take it.
So open to offers then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's another thing that we are. It's part of our grand plan, and we want to engage with anyone who has an experience in that part of the game.
Slightly less serious now. One of the big questions, of course, has been over the shirt that your club will wear. A lot of people obviously not keen on the Union Jack kit, and I think that probably the questions about will you be wearing that stem from the idea that you are the same club, which is obviously not the case. So I think the simple answer, I can answer it for you, is that no, you'll not be wearing a Union Jack shirt. But what can you tell us about that? Because obviously that's one of the things on your checklist that I've seen on social media that hasn't yet been answered.
Yeah, you're right in what you're saying. We're obviously a brand new club. We're not reformed Windsor and Eton. We're not anything to do with Windsor FC. We're a new club. So I understand and appreciate it's a question that people keep on asking. A lot of work has gone into the new kit, not by me, as I'm colourblind, so I've been kept away from it as far as possible.
So red and green is actually no good for you then?
It's not an ideal colour combination, but we are mindful that we're equally while we're a new club, we're equally very mindful of the colours of the club gone by, and what I would say is we very much hope the supporters are delighted with it when we release it. We think we're going to give them two kits that they can be proud of, but it's also, we've got to be a little bit patient because we're also just finalising the main shirt sponsor, and we want to release the kit when that has been finalised and that's on the front of the shirt. And we also want to do a kit launch with Matt and hopefully a few players that he's just signed. So I very much understand that the next thing we've got to turn our attention to and release on socials is the kit, but we just need to be as patient as we can before we get those two kits out there. But even though I'm colourblind, they look good to me.
So that polka dot number that you went for, that's looking good, yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about Matt a little bit then. You said in your press release that Matt Angel, who stepped down at Eversley in California just recently, you said he was the standout candidate for the role. What were you looking for in a manager? I mean, someone obviously starting a new club, that's he's starting with nothing in terms of players. So what were you looking for? And I guess the second part of that is, what were your expectations of him for this season ahead?
I think we got what we were looking for in regard. We had 22, 23 people apply for the role. Many of them very, very credible. We whittled it down to 4 people that we thought were strong contenders, so we wanted to interview those 4. They all came across really, really well, all very different. And when we saw Matt and his assistant manager, Rob, they just seemed to tick the most boxes in terms of what we were looking for. They're passionate about the game. They've got modern attitude towards the game. they're experienced in football, got a lot of experience in football, know the level very well, and have what we believe was the energy, positivity, and mindset to take the club forward and be our first management appointments. And we want to be successful when we start in the Premier Division of the Thames Valley. And I think when you look at any league, you need to be successful. You need players who are able to compete very well in the league above. They'd also had really good relevant experience at Step 6 with Eversley in California. They'd done a really good job there. I think they came 6th in the division, and their knowledge of the local players and being able to assemble a team and a squad within the timescale that we gave them, 3 weeks, is obviously a challenge, but one we felt they could carry out competently. So and 2 smashing guys. Everyone speaks very highly of them, and we believe they're the right guys. Going to answer your other part of the question, what do we expect in the first season? I think we expect to have a really competitive squad, a squad with great energy and attitude, and that's I think the strengths that Matt and Rob will give, and I think a winning style of football. And to your point earlier on, we want to come out of that division at the first opportunity, at the first go. We've created a new club, and that has to start with positivity and a start where everyone gets behind it and continues on an upward trajectory, which we believe they can do. It's I think there's 3 or 4 competitions, including the league, and it would just be wonderful if we could be successful in our first season on a few fronts. And we'll work tirelessly with Matt and Rob to give him all the tools that he needs to be able to achieve that.
It's knowing Matt, he did, as you say, he did a really excellent job at Eversley. He took that team from sort of the bottom of the league to the playoffs in over a couple of seasons. He built a really strong, solid team there. So, I can't see him doing any different with you guys.
Absolutely agree. He's willing to learn, and he's always learning, as he tells me, and he's got a great thirst for it. So I've no doubt he'll be successful.
Let's talk about something non-Windsor, but a few people had asked for this question to be answered. I know you and I have spoken about this previously, but we didn't want to. There were some bits and pieces you needed to tick off before you could kind of really talk about some of this stuff. But one of the questions was, what is happening to Virginia Water with regards to their time at Stag Meadow?
Virginia Water will be playing at Stag Meadow for the 23-24 season. They have a long-term commitment at Stag Meadow that was previously in place, and we would, of course, honour that. I think that Virginia Water is an extremely well-run club. Carrie's I consider him to be a good friend of mine and one of the good guys. And yeah, no question they'll be playing at Stag Meadow for the 23-24 season.
That's good news. It's going to be. It might well be a bit. I'm not sure there's many clubs that have their tenants that play at a higher level than the landlords. But the way that they have pulled that together, especially last season, I feel like they quietly went about finishing quite high up a tough division, and that's something to kind of learn from, I guess. Yeah,
extremely well-run club. Like I say, they've got 2 guys that head that up that do a great job. And like you say, they really performed well last season. I think they've just carried on building on their squad that they've had for some years. What you'll find at the club is, a great atmosphere throughout it, and one that's built on a lot of homegrown local players that people really buy into. So no, they had a fantastic season. Wouldn't surprise me if they go better this season.
I'll keep an eye out for that one. That sounds like a good prediction to me. So, okay, talking about the ground then. we know obviously you're looking to install an artificial pitch in a year or so's time. What are your plans to develop Stag Meadow? What will the lease allow?
I think, first of all, you're right in terms of our priority being the 3G pitch in 12 months' time. There's a process for that, and there's a funding process. There's a lot of things that we have to assure we align with the funders on that. But of course, we want to make sure that does happen as soon as we can, so that we can make the facility one that's used, obviously, a lot more than it is currently. In regards to the lease, I think it's important to say that the Crown have not only been brilliant to deal with, they're incredibly supportive. They, all the way through the talks we had, fundamentally they own a lot of land, and Stag Meadow in the Great Park is in Windsor, and they want a facility that they can be proud of as well as we do. And Paul Mitchell and I had the great privilege of meeting King Charles last week, and even having a conversation with him about the project that we're doing at Stag Meadow. And the Crown are incredibly supportive, and as long as we involve them in our plans, then we'll be able to create a facility that is fit for purpose and gives everyone what they're looking for in the long term. So I think there's a couple of things here. We obviously want to get Stag Meadow to a position where it's fit for here and now, but with the immediate focus on the 3G pitch. But over the next 12 and 18 months, we've got to develop a grand plan too. And developing a grand plan will be a Stag Meadow that looks different to what it is now. It will have facilities that go over and above what it is now. And the Crown are interested in developing that with us in terms of what it looks like, the feel of it, the sustainability. Obviously, that's a big topic of the Crown right now, is sustainability and how that looks. So this is about making a place that can cope and can provide a community facility that everyone uses every day of the year.
It certainly sounds like the way that football clubs should be going in, and obviously there's plenty of planning and work in that respect to do. I suppose probably the elephant in the room that we've not really spoken about is Windsor FC, and I wanted to ask really what kind of relationship you would have with Windsor FC going forward. What kind of relationship do you want to have? What's your aim there?
This isn't, for me, really about two different football clubs. It's more about the people in the community, and it's about engaging with everyone in the town and the community. Windsor FC are obviously a separate club in the community, and of course we want to engage with all local business and clubs and everyone else. So it's not that we have we haven't decided that there are a club we won't speak to or liaise with. We want to open up relationships with everyone, and no one's off that list. That would be that wouldn't align with our values if we were to do something like
that. One interesting question. I know I sent you a list of questions last night, but so I got a late one that someone sent me, and it was just around the name Windsor and Eton. What's the process of being able to use the name Windsor and Eton? Because there was obviously a previous club that was called Windsor and Eton, and I don't know how that works in FA structures and stuff like that. Is because of course, like in the acting world, you can't have the same name as another actor. So how does that work? How are you able to call your club now Windsor and Eton?
I had a conversation with the FA about a year ago, and the topic was Windsor Eton Football Club, and could we use the name if we were going to start a new club? And they went away and did their due diligence and their checks and how that works from a legal perspective, and given that the length of time that it had been dormant, for want of a better word, and they came back with a set of parameters where we could use the name, and I guess one of those was that we couldn't say that we were reformed. We couldn't go back to the honours lists that Windsor and Eton held previously, and as long as our narrative, which is we are a new club, we're not anything to do with the old club, sufficient time has passed where we are able to use the name.
That's good. No, I think that very much answers the question there. What would the kind of the last thing, I guess, then was, and I think perhaps we've covered this anyway, but obviously you yourself have been around football a long time on and off the pitch. You've seen a lot of other clubs. Who are you taking inspiration from? But more importantly, what is Windsor and Eton Football Club going to be going forward? What is that kind of, if you could distill it into, I guess, let's say some sort of motto or brand or something like that. What is Windsor and Eton Football Club going to be?
I guess to try and summarise what you've asked me is and probably some understanding as well, of course. So it's really important that it's seen as one football club. We've bought essentially myself as a 50% owner, and the youth section are a 50% owner of the club. We're a non-for-profit organisation. We're a community infrastructure company, and which means obviously the profits proceeds will go back into the club, and that will develop the facility, and that will develop the first team senior section as well. Paul Mitchell, who we discussed as the chair of the youth section, and we're very aligned on what the club looks like. There is no youth and senior, it's not separate, two separate entities, it's one club. So when we make decisions, it's for the good of all. And that includes the female section, and if we can try and have disability section and a vet section, we will too. So there are two parts to this, I guess. One is a football front, and the second is a community aspect. On the football front, our ambition is to get to step 2. And then once we get there, we'll reassess and see and reevaluate. We're under absolutely no illusions how difficult getting from step 7 to step 2 will be. The money in the game has gone up exponentially. There are budgets in step 6 which I never thought I'd see, and step 5 is another world, and then from 4 upwards, that's obviously a bit of a game changer as well. We're ambitious. Part of our grand plan is step 2 football. So that's from a football point of view. And from a football point of view, we also want to focus on the youth and what that looks like, and how we want to build that into the constitution, if you like, as well. Plus the women's and all the other parts of the game. So that's a football point of view. From a facility point of view, and going back to part of the things I enjoyed as a manager and what the supporters enjoy, part of the attraction for me, and part of my most enjoyable part of being a manager at the football club, was that on a Saturday you would see and meet people and catch up with friends, family, and the football. Some people took it really, really seriously, and some people it was a byproduct of being there and having a catch up with everyone as a meeting point, a hub. And we want to create a community hub so that we create an academy in the day. We have football there, like I said before, 364 days a year, where it's used in the day, used in the evening. So we've got under 9s training on the pitch on a Monday night, and the parents aren't dropping and going. They're staying in the facility. If they're a drinker, they'll have a beer. If they're a non-drinker, they'll have a coffee in hopefully our cafe. So it's really about engaging with everyone in the community. It's about engaging with local clubs, local schools, local businesses, so that we can bring everybody together. So from a football point of view, we want to be successful, but from a community point of view, we want to provide a first-class facility where everyone can come, enjoy it, be part of it, meet people, see friends, and really that is the long-term vision, to provide a facility where everyone can really enjoy it and be community-minded at the same time.
I mean, that sounds good to me, and I hope that the future of the club is one that and you're able to fulfil this. I think that's incredibly important, especially for that community as well. One very final question. It's a mildly silly one. It's just a bugbear of mine because I keep currently having to write the club or the side after writing Windsor and Eton. Does the team have a nickname?
That's a really good question, and one I hadn't thought of.
If you could get back to me at some point.
I think we'll put that out to a few people and see what, and maybe our social media can ask some questions and tackle that as a separate note.
Just from a writer's point of view, it's really useful to know that. So
yeah, hadn't thought of that.
Mark Cooper, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for answering my questions, and good luck to the season. Good luck for the season. I will see you in Burfield.
Look forward to it, Tom. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.